I didn't like the new neighborhood I moved into. When I turned 12, I had to adjust to a new life on a dead-end street surrounded by trees. I hated water more than anything in the world, yet there was a small pond in the backyard. My small, dingy house matched the other small, dingy houses that surrounded me. It was what you would call cookie-cutter homes. The whole neighborhood was covered in a blanket of shadows that blocked a majority of the light of the sun, with the exception of a few specks of light. Leaving behind my friends was definitely the worst part of moving. I didn't know anyone in this new life, and quite frankly didn't want to, because it was like I was going to be replacing the ones I left behind. I was way more interested in trying to keep my life the exact same as it once was. I'd just waste the day, all day. I didn't go outside for a week when I first started the woods lifestyle. I hated change. Being in the middle of the woods on a little street of a few people may sound peaceful, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. I was way more comfortable pretending I was back home, so I blocked my vision of the new outdoor scenery as much as I could. I made sure all the blinds were drawn, and I even put up blankets. Since my personal watch was broken, I had no idea what time of day it was during my week of being a hermit, and I really preferred it that way. The first day I decided to venture out was a very interesting experience. The light of day blinded me as my groggy self begrudgingly trudged through my front lawn. I needed this, though. I needed to get out of my house and move on with the whole process of making new friends and being outside again. I met someone. Up to that point, I might as well have been living in the neighborhood alone since I hadn't seen a different person in days. His name was Tim. I met him while I was sauntering down the sidewalk. He was sitting in the grass playing with a hammer and some wood. He was simply and monotonously hammering nails into the board. Needless to say, Tim was not a normal kid. He wore a baggy factory uniform that seemed to be too big for him to even be wearing. From what I saw, it seemed like his thinly combed black hair was a tad patchy. He looked younger than I was, but his hair was that of a 50-year-old man's. "Hello," I said as I forced a smile. I decided to be friendly just in case I ended up having to stay in that dump. He didn't look up when I approached him, but he responded with a distracted, "Hey." "I'm the new kid on the block," I said with a playful chuckle. I was trying my best to be friendly. "New kids don't stay here long," he said bluntly, slamming his hammer onto the head of the nail. "I doubt you'll be here even long enough to make a difference." My fake smile disappeared as he punctuated his sentence with another smack. "What does that even mean?" I asked. My heart was beating faster now that he was talking like a freak. He ignored me and continued on doing the same thing, over and over. As he did so, I noticed a slight hint of green to his skin. It was a subtle, sickly color. I was enamored with his strange appearance. I was getting old enough to know that it was rude to stare, so I averted my eyes and tried to talk to him as though he wasn't a strange person with a strange appearance. More apprehensively this time, I said, "Well, I'm just at that house down there if you want to be friends or anything like that," I said, kinda stepping backwards to leave. "My name is Corey, by the way. Nice to meet you." He stopped hammering and looked at the house I pointed at, then looked at me for the first time. "Ah, that house. You have a lake back there. I would kill to be able to have something like that. You're so lucky." "Well, he can have it," I remember thinking. "My name is Tim. Nice to meet you too," he finished as he picked up another nail to get back to work. "Cool," I said as I walked away. "See you around, Tim." There was something off about him. I mean, there were several things off, but before I interacted with him, I felt safe and comfortable. Now, I was uneasy. The way he spoke and what he said disturbed me in a way. I thought about the interaction in depth as I walked further down the dead-end street. What did he mean when he said that I wouldn't be here long enough? Maybe he was just sick and delusional from something he contracted. Was it contagious? I felt pity for him. My thoughts winded down as I took in my surroundings more. Something in the pit of my stomach just didn't feel right. Everything just felt off. All the houses started looking a little too similar. I tried chalking it up to just trying to get used to my new home, but I was feeling on edge as I took my walk. I was just starting to notice how quiet everything was around me. No cars, no birds, no children playing. The silence was starting to drive me insane as I realized how sensationless my environment was becoming. There wasn't even a pleasant breeze to enjoy. I decided to cut my adventure short and just head back. I wasn't far at all from my home, so I was in for a short walk. As I passed by where I had my odd conversation with Tim, I realized he wasn't there anymore. That was quick, I said out loud. He must have got up and left as soon as I walked away. I quickened my pace as I started getting freaked out by the series of events. My home didn't make me feel this way. The safety of my house didn't make me uncomfortable the way this weird-ass neighborhood did. I started to lightly jog to get back to my safe haven. When my front door came into view, I cut across my neighbor's lawn and slipped into my house as swiftly as I could. I melted into a state of relief as my house comforted me. A wave of frustration washed away my comfort as I sat on the ground of my house. The change was starting to get me. Being able to walk around and visit my friends was some of the best days of my life. Having to sit at home isn't any fun if it's my only option. Knowing how much better my life used to be just made me mad. Mad as hell. I sat in silence, stewing in my anger. That's when the doorbell rang. It made my heart jump out of my chest. I have no idea why, but it just scared the hell out of me. I got up and walked to my door. I looked out my peephole to see a giant kid standing tall. I curiously opened my door. That kid could not have been too much older than I was, towered over me. He had a hint of blue to his skin and wore a flannel shirt and suspenders that held up his jeans that had fresh mud on them. "You step in my yard," he said in a heavy Russian accent. The deep voice and accent threw me off. With his appearance, I didn't think he'd be Russian. "Oh, I'm sorry?" I said a little intimidated. "You run by and step in my yard. I have best lawn in neighborhood, and you step in it." I was baffled. Who cares about someone just stepping in your lawn for a second? Sorry about that. It won't happen again," I said as I started to shut the door. He reached up and blocked the door from shutting, exposing his missing fingers and black nubs that were in their places. "You don't understand," he began as he pushed the door back open. "If I ever see you disrespect my great lawn again, we'll have big problem." No, you're absolutely right," I said frantically. "Please, I don't want any issues. It won't happen again. I'm so sorry." I crumbled. I wasn't about to take on an adolescent tank of a boy. I'm no fighter. "Good," he said with absolutely no expression change. "If you stay here any longer, I'll be watching you every step of the way, Corey." Before I could respond, he reached for the handle with the few fingers he had left and pulled the door shut. Dumbfounded, I plopped back onto the ground. My safe haven no longer felt safe. Knowing that a teenage Russian mobster was right next door, watching me, wasn't exactly a relaxing thought. Not only that, I couldn't for the life of me figure out how he knew my name. I woke up dazed on the floor. I didn't even remember falling asleep. I must have had a panic attack or something. That was the most stress I'd ever been under up to that point. So much so that I lost consciousness. I groggily got up off the floor and stumbled into the kitchen. Great, nothing to eat. Again. Damn house never has food, I mumbled as I slammed the pantry door shut. I opened the blinds to the backyard. I figured by now it'd be night. I was wrong. The light still shined through the trees from above. I must not have been out as long as I thought, my rational brain said to me. My irrational brain, however, had alarm bells ringing too loud to ignore. I got myself together and stormed out of the house in a fit of anger. I was getting out of that damn neighborhood. I was going to walk until I couldn't walk anymore. I stared up at the gaps of the trees as I stomped down the sidewalk. I was convinced I was getting toyed with, and it infuriated me. As I was walking with my head fixated up, my knees came out from underneath me, and I did an impressive faceplant. Grumbling, I looked back at what I tripped over. Looking down on me was a red-faced little girl. She looked pissed. "Why don't you watch where the hell you're going?" she shouted down at me. "How about you do the same?" I said. I could totally defend myself against a little girl, I thought. She tested that theory by jumping on top of me and punching me one after the other with alternating fists. I'll be the first to admit, The girl packed a punch, but I stood up and held her back as I recovered. "Calm down," I shouted as she flailed her arms like Scrappy-Doo. She slowly winded down with some furious growls and some huffs and puffs. I sat down on the grass, abandoning the current mission so I could maybe coax some information out of this new person. "Sit down with me. I want to talk to you." With a furrowed brow, she reluctantly sat next to me. "My name's Corey." "Anna," she said aggressively. "All right, Anna. What the hell is going on here?" "What do you mean?" "You know what I mean, Anna," I said in a frustrated tone. "What the hell is going on here?" I repeated. She huffed at me and got up to leave. I got up and grabbed her arm. I was expecting to be hit or yelled at, but she just looked at me. This was the first time I really got a good look at her face. Her face full of scarring and evidence of healed burn wounds. This wasn't the only new thing I noticed. She was also bearing a huge, toothy smile this time. I let go and her arm dropped. "Keep up that rage. You'll end up stuck here with us," she said, laughing. "And you seem like you'd fit right in." She turned around and walked away. I didn't follow. I didn't try to stop her. Instead, I turned around back the way I was heading. I wasn't going to let another one of these residents stop me from getting to the bottom of this. Something wasn't right, and I knew that for sure now. The road ahead was very repetitive in the way things looked. The sidewalk remained unbroken as it led further out. The trees kept things dark, and the houses looked the same. I walked with purpose. I was going to walk until I was back home. I was ready to do anything to get the hell out of that place, even if it meant walking until I was across the country. I didn't walk the distance of the country. In fact, I didn't have to walk much further at all in order to reach a change in scenery. I did, however, regret my misplaced tenacity. After a single step, I crossed a threshold. I found myself surrounded in darkness. The contrast from daylight to the sun blackness left me blinded. The new void I found myself in starved me of all my senses. I no longer wanted to move forward as much as I just wanted to get back. "Oh hey." I snapped my head toward the teenage boy's voice as it broke the silence. "Looks like someone new came along." Doesn't look like they have much to offer." I craned my neck in the opposite direction toward the female's voice. "Yeah, sure is a cutie," said the male. He was right behind me as he tiptoed his fingers across my shoulder. I whipped my whole body around and fell flat on my butt. "Whoa there, stud. Take it easy, huh? How about you take my hand?" I couldn't see anything at all, even though he was apparently reaching out a hand close enough for me to grab. "He can't see you. You know that, right?" said the female. "Oh, that's right. Poor baby," the guy said condescendingly as I felt a pair of hands touch my outer thighs. I slapped at the hands and yelled at the guy, "Get your hands off me, dude!" "It's not me, dude," he said, laughing. "Sorry, kid, I just can't help myself." The female also giggled. I started wildly backing up in the dark to try to get away, scooting along the ground towards the way I came. Like flipping on a light switch, I was back in the lit neighborhood. Squatted down a few feet away, the female I spoke to was picking through my wallet in full view. "I think you can see us now," the guy said. Both of them must have been 16 or 17 years old. The guy had slick black hair and wore a cheesy suit that wasn't fitted to his body. His skin was covered in little circular rashes. "Damn kid has no money," the girl said. "At this rate, we'll never buy our way out of this place." She looked relatively normal aside from her old-timey dress that covered her neck to her feet. She had sandy blonde hair covered by a stylish bonnet. She wore a large silky ascot that covered her neck in its entirety. "Forget the money," the guy said as he reached out his hand again to help me up. "I'm sure this handsome fella can get us out." "Well, how the hell do you suppose they'll do that when they got nothing?" "Not everything revolves around money," the guy said as he helped me to my feet. Stroking my face, he playfully added, "I'd do anything if you can find us a way out of here." I jerked away from his hand, saying, "Who are you?" I looked around the guy to glare at the girl. "And what the hell are you doing with my wallet?" Not getting money out of it, that's for goddamn sure," she replied as she tossed it on the ground lazily in my direction. To answer your first question, the guy said as he picked up my wallet for me, the name's Jack. As I grabbed my wallet, he put his other hand up to touch mine as I took it from him. I'm Gail, the uninterested girl said, looking around. Alrighty, Jack and Gail, I began. I needed to get some information for once, so I wanted to choose my words both carefully and directly. Do you know what this place is? Yeah, said Gail, walking away. Whoa, wait, I yelled at her. I'll give you anything you want, if that'll get us the hell out of here. She kept walking as she yelled back, You don't have anything to offer, kid. At least Jack was still standing in front of me, but his expression was more stern. It's best if you figure it out yourself. I hear it moves you along a little faster, he said ominously. I dropped my head. A wave of sadness washed over me as I realized how horrible of a situation I was in. And I don't even know what that situation was. Thanks, said solemnly. I simply turned around and started my walk back. Jack didn't follow. I couldn't get past the feeling of indescribable melancholy as I approached my house. I opened up the door. I sat in my favorite spot on the floor and wallowed into a state of pure misery. That's when I heard the voices in my backyard. I mumbled out loud, What the fresh hell is this? I got up and stumbled to the window. I uncovered it and looked out to my little pond. Lounging shirtless in the water was an overly skinny boy with his shirt off. At the edge of the pond sat an older girl, fully dressed. She had greasy black hair, wore dirty blue jeans, and a colorful t-shirt. I opened my back door for the first time ever and stepped out. I wasn't going to go anywhere near the water, so I shouted at the two strangers in my yard, Hey, can I help you? The boy ignored me, but the girl looked back with her dilated and bloodshot eyes to say, I don't know, man. I'm sure you can't. I don't know, man. She reached down and grabbed a handful of grass and put it in her mouth. I've seen drug addicts before and she fit the description. Okay, I said at a loss for words. How about you guys go ahead and get out of my backyard? Whoa, man, chill out. Have some of this tasty grass with me, she said between bites. She got up from the ground and brought me a handful. It makes me feel better when I'm down. I stared at the loose grass and looked back at the inebriated hippie in front of me. I just shook my head to say no. She depressingly lowered her hands and pouted as she did so. No one here is any fun, she moaned. Stuck here with a bunch of buzzkills. What if... I started saying out loud. Thinking, I turned towards my house. Wait here. I walked back into my house and looked around to observe my environment for what must have been the first time. I don't have furniture. The house I was living in was bare. I had no possessions, no decorations, no appliances, nothing. My parents weren't there. In fact, now that I think about it, they didn't move in with me. And some of you may have already figured it out. I'm dead. It took me that long to finally accept what I knew the whole time. In that moment, it all became clear. Everyone on my street was stuck in this afterlife with me. I turned back to look at my backyard. The two poor souls were gone. I looked at my reflection in the glass and noticed my appearance. I was bloated. I raised a hand and saw it was a deep purple color. I looked up from my hand toward the small pond in the backyard. Water. Why did I hate it so much? In those moments of clarity, a wave of relief washed away every other feeling. I accepted my situation. Not knowing what was going on was making this so difficult for me. I write this now with a plan. I'm going to put this paper I'm writing on in my front pocket. To the reader, if there is one, please type out my story for people to know. There's hope. Life isn't one-dimensional like I and millions of others have originally thought. I'm going for a swim now.